This is Jose. I am interviewing Gloria Ramirez and Delfina Garcia on April 29, 2014. This interview is taking place at CSU-Pueblo Archives in Pueblo, Colorado. The interview is sponsored by CSU-Pueblo University Archives and Special Collections and is part of the Southern Colorado Ethnic Heritage and Diversity Archives project. I want to confirm that Ms. Gloria and Delfina understands that this interview is being recorded and that this recording will be preserved at the CSU-Pueblo University Archives. Thank you, guys. So, like I said, I don't have any questions prepared because of how quick this happened. So, how did you guys come to live in Salt Creek?
When I got married, my in-laws lived there. So we moved in there in Salt Creek. That was in 52 we got married, and we moved to Salt Creek in 53. My husband and I, but they lived there for years.
His parents' names?
The what?
What was his parents' names?
Juan Garcia and Margarita Garcia, grandparents.
Those were my in-laws and her grandparents.
Okay. And when did you start in with the contamination of the CFNI?
We started with the farm work first.
Okay.
We got involved, and then they talked us into joining Raza Unida. And then from there, my husband was a fighter all the time. He wanted to get rid of everything there and all. And he started the cleanup and fighting against the contamination water, because they had made a well right next to the black water. And everybody was coming to him, telling him, help us because you're younger than we are. Doña Luisa Flores and your grandpa, Nunez, La Vida, and a lot of other older people, because they couldn't do it no more. And they came to him and told him, and that was like giving him a candy. He went for it, boy, and he started picketing and going to the county commissioners and everything else for that well to remove it. We finally got the Mesa water put in Salt Creek.
But people, the elderly, were dying left and right in the area at this time. They were bringing samples of water from their bathtubs where there was rust forming, red rust, and they'd bring the water and show it to them where the water had settled. Then other people would bring water where it looked like oil at the bottom of the jars. They would bring them to him and show them, and they were tired of this. So like she said, he started going around rousing people, and a lot of people supported it and were, for it. And they wanted different water brought in, a different well. And then you had a lot of people there that were involved with the county commissioners, friends. They had cisterns, they had water brought in. So
And wells.
And wells, and they didn't care. They said, leave it the way it is, that water's good. They had a meeting at the recreation hall there for the senior citizens and everybody involved. When the county commissioners showed up, they showed them the water and explained to them what was going on. And they said, there's nothing wrong with the water. And at that time, my dad did tell them, well, if there's nothing wrong with the water and it's safe, drink it. And they refused to drink this water, and a lot of the elderly got upset with this, and that's when the big battle started.
And those are the jars that Jews have with that rust. That was the water. And throughout the years, it just turned into rust. But that's the water they were drinking, and we didn't, because we had a well. We had a well, but then they forced us to close the wells down, so the only ones that didn't close them down were the politicians that had the wells in their basements, but the rest they wanted to keep it there, and he fought it, and we got the Mesa water in, and then we started to get the roads paved. We didn't have paved roads, it was all dirt. We'd eat out that dirt, yeah. And lights, but it was like a city that was left without nobody to care for. But we had a lot of help when we started that there, including your grandpa. He was a pusher too, a fighter. Yeah.
He'd tell my dad, don't give up, fight.
Yeah.
Hang in there, he says. And Juan Nunes was also a fighter. He wouldn't give up. He's the one that worked at the railroad, and he's the one that started the first strike there. And they started a sewing club there at La Fida Nunes, your grandparents' house there. My mother's the one that was able to get all the sewing machines and stuff there that they had. And they had a lot of women involved in that there too.
The younger
Yeah.
girls were learning to sew and all.
It wasn't just one project that they were involved in. They were
It was
involved
all
in so
kinds.
many. And my dad would have loved to have been here to see this day that all his work came true for him.
And he wasn't afraid of the county commissioners. He'd face them. He'd come face to face with them, and they'd tell him to be quiet because it wasn't the place. He'd say, no, I won't shut until you listen to me, or I'll go to the newspaper. He'd always threaten with the newspaper. So they'd listen. But we went through a lot. You wouldn't believe all the things that we had to fight for and everything else. And then a lot of the people, we didn't have a bus. A lot of the people didn't have rights to go to the doctors. So I volunteered to take them, or take them to the store if I had to. So it was a project that was benefiting Salt Creek in the long run. And then from there we went out to the rest with the Sarchalas and the rest. So we joined that strike and everything else. And
The march to Denver from here. They only permitted so many people to march from here to Denver because of the traffic, and they were afraid of what would happen. We had State Patrol that would go along. She would drive a 52 pickup truck with a porta potty for everybody to use when they stopped to rest on the area. And at the same time, she'd have to come back to Colorado, to Pueblo, to set up the strike here for the farm strike. And then she'd go back again, take everybody food to eat. She'd cook and take everybody some. And while we were on the march, it was something you never forget. Upon reaching our destination to Denver, this was involving the farm strike and just different all causes there. When we reached our goal there to the Capitol, they were expecting just the people that were going from here on the march. And when we reached Denver, you couldn't see where the people stopped coming in. There was so many people that it made you feel so good. You cried just to see this. But the bad news was when we entered the Capitol, you had your police all on top with rifles pointing at the people. I guess they were expecting a big old riot. You had all your anti-protesters sitting on the lawn with signs, "Please go home," just cutting us down. And when they seen all this, they got up and left. But it was gave you a feeling, I'm proud. I'm proud to be who I am, what we accomplished and fought for. And my parents for doing what they've done.
And then in the farms, they didn't have, all the kids from Salt Creek were going to the farms to work after school. And they didn't have water, they didn't have toilets, nothing like that. So when we went on strike with the farm workers, that's when they started putting the water for them, the bathrooms, and different stuff. And the wages went up a little because we were getting 5 cents a dozen to a bunch. And now they're paying $1 some, but they 5 cents. Can you imagine the kids? The whole family would have to bunch in order to make enough to pay whatever they were going to do, their tuition or clothing, but they were with us in Salt Creek too. There was a lot of kids involved.
The poisons they sprayed while people were working.
Yeah. And Al Gurule helped us a lot there. And then when Marty Cerna came back from Vietnam, or who was it? He really pushed, and that's when things really went ahead, because Al had left for college, and so Marty came, and he kept it going. And we had people from all over. We'd go to Alamosa and all over.
I saw pictures of Corky Gonzalez.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
We
we-
came down.
in Salt Creek,
We used to have meetings.
we had our cleanups, when they started cleaning up Salt Creek, we got a lot of help. My dad pushed the county commissioners to bring their dump trucks, their tractors, and they did come down and they tear the houses down and
The ordinance
The Army,
loaned us
yeah.
the trucks.
yeah, the ordinance did
Yeah.
too. They came down and they started tearing
And then
down
Corky
houses.
sent us a boxing ring and boxing equipment, baseball equipment to Salt Creek, to the Barrio Salado Improvement Association. That's what we named it. My husband was president and I was, well, kind of a secretary and vice, but we had other people involved in it. But we had all that there and we opened the backyard, which is Patsy's house where she lives now. The backyard, we opened it up to the kids, so all the kids would be there playing after school and boxing with Patsy. She was our boxer there, but they'd all be there after school, and sometimes they go after school without eating, so I'd make burritos or something for them, and I tell them, give them some because I know they haven't ate. And that's the way it just went on and on until we couldn't no
Kept
more.
the children and the kids, everybody off the streets, getting into trouble, gave them something to do. And like she says, they used to call her mom, used to say, she's not your mom. Yes.
But Corky and his wife and family came down to meetings there at her where she lives, and it was nice because in the back there was a pond, a big pond, and then we had seats and all where they had that play area, that recreation area, and they'd come down from Denver and we'd hold meetings there, or just. But Corky came a few times with his wife and his daughters and some of the other people that were involved with the crusade. So, or we'd go to Denver, but we were always on the go. There was no rest for us.
But thanks to my dad, my mom, Vila and Juan Nunes, Jesse Martinez, who's gone, Doña Luisa Flores, the Cruzes from Salt Creek also, the Monteses, a lot of people there and a lot of them that are gone
But they all lived in Salt Creek, so they all helped with it.
So you guys said that there was fights prior to your husband being involved. What were those? What were they doing? Who were the people? You know, what exactly were they fighting against?
When we started,
Yeah, well, prior to when you guys got involved, what were they noticing, or what was happening then?
there was nothing. The people were complaining and they wouldn't pay attention to them. Some of our senior citizens would go and complain to Enrique Reyes, was the county commissioner then.
about the street lights, stuff like this. They were fighting, trying to get into there. You'd go into Salt Creek back then and it was pitch black. You couldn't go out at night. If you did, you had to be careful not to stumble on the dirt roads. The water, we didn't have water back then, a water well. The people that had wells were lucky, but during the winter they kind of dry out. And there was a spring on El Paso Street going down,
The Ojito, they used to call it.
and people would have to go get their water from here. And they just, things like this, they wanted a water well. They wanted lights in there. But only certain streets were paved for the ones that were involved with the politics, but anybody else, the other streets, they forgot about them. It was really hard. And you'd go to school, and if you were known that you were from Salt Creek, you'd get harassed. So even in the schools, we'd have battles. And that's when the parents also formed this club and went into the schools, and they used to fight for us.
So Luis was like a voice for the area. He pushed a lot and got a lot of things done.
He helped the elderly, the ones that came and complained that weren't listened to by the county commissioners. These were the fights and the battles going on in that area. And then at that time there was also, when they got involved into the Raza Unida, There was a lot of trouble with the police department, what they were doing with people, beating them up. There was one man, I don't remember what his name was, he had come back from the service and they beat him up so bad that he landed up crippled. This is where...
Possibly Chucky Salazar, maybe?
No,
No? Okay.
I don't remember what his name was, but that's when my dad finally got involved also with Racionida. He says, I'm going to join. He says, what they're doing isn't right either. And I could say that. So much that was happening that you were afraid.
And
then
what, oh, good. I'm sorry.
she worked for the sheriff department. That's where they put her in after she came from Denver. She went and went to college up there. And when she came back, they were going to give her a job at the airport.
At the employment office.
Yeah, but at the airport, they were going to send you out there.
But they found out, I guess, and I got stuck at the sheriff's department for 16 years.
What did they find out?
Well, my dad, that he was involved in the movement and all this.
And he was a brown beret.
I worked there, and the Army would come down from Fort Carson into my office where I worked for 6 detectives, and they'd bring pictures showing me pictures of my dad, Eddie Montour, all the people that were involved in the movement, the Brown Berets. Do you know this person? Do you know that person? Nope. I don't know. I don't work for you. I work for the sheriff's department. And when I told my boss about this back then, he was pretty good. He told him, she doesn't work for you. She works for us. If you want to find out who these people are, investigate it on your own time. But I got harassed there too. Wherever I go, I tell them they give me a hard time with the Army coming down. Why they would come down? So that's why I say I was placed there for a reason.
Right. So when did your husband get involved with the Brown Berets? When did that initially start?
It was about, what, 68? About 68.
1968.
Maybe even sooner than that. I can't remember the exact date, but...
And was this prior to, him being involved in the Salt Creek, cleanup and all that kind
Yeah,
of stuff?
because we were involved with, we were pushing with Cesar Chavez, a grape and lettuce strike
It was
here.
before, because then they started coming into Salt Creek to help also with the cleanup and to help them with whatever they needed there to support and give them support.
Kind of helped being involved with all different, from the farm strike to the Racionida to everything, because it all worked in place, and it all kind of gave them power to get everything done that they were trying to get done.
They knocked a lot of houses, old houses that were already falling down, and they knocked them down and cleaned it and threw everything. But and now there's a lot more, but nobody's pushing to get them off. Like across from where she lives, that house has to be torn down, and maybe if somebody buys it and tears it down, it'll start, because there's a lot of new houses going up there.
A
So
lot of improvements.
yeah,
Since way back. You would have seen a lot of those, well, you've seen some of the pictures there. It's something that you never would have believed. The roads, the lights, the water joining up with Mesa, the city bus going through there now. It's just something. People used to walk to work back then. No buses, and if they didn't have a vehicle, and the water, pulling it from this water spring, like they say, all the elderly, they got to live a little bit longer after that well came in, because the ash in the water from the CFNI, and there's still, not too long ago, I guess they tested the dirt there in Salt Creek for contamination from the CFNI, and so many people were paid so much for the contamination of their on their properties, and who knows? The property it belonged to my parents on El Paso Street. We bought it from them, and before that it was at my grandparents' house. when they moved here from Rhineville, Colorado, and my sister Pat lives there now. So I moved. I said, younger generation, take it over. And I give that to Katrina and
Whoever else is pushing.
What were they dumping the slag in the water? What exactly was going into the water that was contaminated in it?
They'd wash the still
Okay.
at the mill, and that water would run down into the black water. So that's why it was called the black water, because it ran black. The water was dark.
Yeah, but it's still down there. There's
and
a
then
big
you had your
pond
portable
right below the sea.
moonlight at night when they poured the slag down. We'd go out in the backyard and you could see the slag being poured. And I mean, the water would run when it rained and all that would wash into that little river there.
But it was a long. I look back now and I say, it couldn't have been that long. Everything that we traveled and everything we done, and we even had time to put up a restaurant one time after the Rockville closed down, because my husband worked there for 16 years at Rockville, and his boss would let him go if he had to go attend to something. The boss would let him go, and then he worked for John Demas car lot, and he was good with him too. When he worked there, he'd let him go if he had to go attend to something. He'd go, and he'd let him go. But it was, now it seems like a dream. I can't even remember some of the stuff until you were bringing it out.
He quit school in the 3rd grade and to work with his parents. They traveled a lot to work in the different fields and farms. He didn't have that much education, worked in the junkyards because of that. But he finally got tired.
And then we had an organization called PURE, Parents United for Reformed Education, and it was woman mothers. They'd throw a kid out of school, like in county, they'd throw the kids out of school and they didn't want them back, and we fought for that. We'd go in there, they didn't want to see us, and the lady that was the head of it, the president, was Gladys Hill. She'd go in there and tell them, you either talk to us or we'll get the newspaper in here. Boy, they'd open those doors for us, and we'd get the kids back in school. So there was a lot of things, different organizations that we were in that.
And at that time, a lot of the kids were harassed because they were into the movement and they were into a lot of stuff trying to push, and they were actually harassed by teachers and by law and everything else. You know, they were marked.
Right.
They were smart.
I've heard various versions of the story, but how did your husband get the name Lugs? Nickname?
Uh-oh.
That's a long story. They say that they used to tell him that he could lift up a car from the front or the back, and that they seen him one time, I don't know who fell in a ditch, and he went and helped him and pulled the car up. So that they named him Lugs, and from there on, we were the Lugs family. I was Mrs. Lugs and Little Lugs, and
And then when we were out in the fields one time, he was driving down and this lady was coming and she went right towards him. He swerved not to hit her, and he rolled the truck into a ditch, and he just jumped out and just like pushed it back over, and all the kids that were there, wow, look what he's doing. So all the little kids went up there to try to help him, and they pushed the truck back over, and still with the name pretty much. The strength, I guess, I don't know.
so that's how we got the name.
So during the movement, when you were, going to battles with these people, you would always use the newspaper as a tactic
Yeah.
to that. So
Yeah.
what other things would you guys utilize as tactics to,
It was
get change?
It was mostly the paper, and then Al would go to our, because he was
Ramirez would
educated
also
now.
Be security, help to secure, make sure that none of the people during the marches or whatever demonstrations, pickets at the farms, that nobody would get hurt. They'd always be on the alert, tell people to move. So it was those two that we always
And
had
Pat
with
Gomez.
us. And Pat Gomez, she was from the east side. She was always there, and she wasn't afraid either. She'd speak up. It was one time that we were out in the farms picketing, and there was one farmer that actually put a plow, the one that turns the dirt over, on my dad.
And all of us, we were,
Yeah,
We were on the road because we would never go into a property. So we'd always be on the road.
And everybody jumped back on the ditch, and the one that got, ran over, well, he actually ran over the toes of Filbert.
Baca, that's right.
Baca.
Oh, yeah.
And good thing he had steel-toe boots, because it went right over his steel-toe boot. And then there was
We had
another
a lot
driver
of
that actually
people.
went out there with the shotgun.
A lot of people, farm workers and their families were out there picketing because they wanted better wages. That's all they lived.
They leave the Black Hand Mafia sign on a paper on the windows of the vehicles, threatening and warning. But we weren't afraid. We knew what we were getting involved in, what was going to happen. We knew that we were going to have people pro and for us, against us. It didn't matter. That was accomplished. They accomplished what they went for, what we went for. And I'm glad now that a lot of people are enjoying this, even the ones that were against us. But there's a lot of people to remember that were involved in it.
Like,
That I told you, Doña Lisa Flores, Martin Cerna, the Cruzes, Juan Nunez, Lafida Nunez,
Jesse Martinez.
Jesse Martinez, people down there. Freda Belamontes, they lived there on San Juan. I can't remember them all.
What was the
There
name of
quite a-
Benavides?
Oh, the one on Laguna?
The young one, the one that was in college. He was always there on meetings and all. And they,
Furman, was it Furman
Benavides?
Or Robert Benavides?
no,
Gerald.
no, he wasn't from Gerald and Robert. He was from the ones that lived by the dollar store, by that section.
On the turn.
Yeah, the ones we seen in
Yes,
church.
I can't remember the name.
Yeah.
Blanked out. We gotta write all these names
In all
down.
these years, we're getting Alzheimer's.
Yeah, especially me already. And then I think when we slowed down was when I had to have a heart surgery. They put a valve in my heart, and I started getting tired, and so he started slowing down too. And he was the one that took care of the house because I couldn't do it anymore. And even now I'm just waiting.
He got cancer and like that.
He got cancer, and
And
that's what
there
he
were so many
died of.
people from Salt Creek that got cancer.
Yeah.
During the time,
Young and old.
during the time of the water that we had, you had so many people dying of cancer, heart attacks.
All of them
And you
were.
still have people dying of cancer that have lived down there. So many people that have died of cancer down there. Mariano Gomez died of a heart attack and cancer through the knee.
His daughter died of cancer at a young age.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that are gone. And me, well, I'm 81. I don't know how I reached there. I thought I was going to go before my husband because he was always so strong and all. But that cancer got to him, and he just started going, and he died at home 6 years ago. That's when.
And his,
But he had picked up all that stuff, and he kept putting it in a box and putting it there, and I tell him, get rid of it. What are you going to do with it? You leave that there. Someday it'll come handy. And it did. It came in handy.
and his goal also was he always told that younger generation, even if you weren't a relative, he'd tell them, go to school, go to college, be somebody. Don't go through what I did. He says, no education. The job I had, he says, working in junkyards for years. He says, this is why we're fighting. He says, for youth.
Yeah, he pushed
it.
education. We all did. We wanted everybody to have an education.
And back then, the younger generation couldn't even get a job at McDonald's. I mean, it was so bad that nobody ever had a chance to get a job. It wasn't until all this happened that they were able to actually. Now they're running McDonald's. They're running all these places, which you couldn't even get a job at McDonald's. You can get a job nowhere. You were the last one to
Just the farms.
hire, period. And it wasn't until you've seen the big turn. you just seen a huge turn where even she got into the sheriff department, which they would have never seen that before.
I'd go to the employment office after I graduated for a job, and it's true, they wouldn't hire. Here, go to this employment office on Santa Fe, the farms. That's all we were good for.
Mm-hmm.
Or dishwashers. But they wouldn't even hire us as dishwashers. We had a hard time.
And my other daughter, the one that follows her, graduated from here with 2 degrees. She's got 3 degrees now, but she graduated from here. So that's why we're so familiar with this. After we pushed that she graduated, she came into the college here, and so.
So everything that our parents done for us helped our generation to make it into college, to get better jobs, into the law, to help us move on. It was their strength and their kids' brains and studying in the colleges to make it to where we are today, pretty much.
And a lot of younger people that up to this day also say if it wasn't for him and my mother, we wouldn't be where we're at now. They took care of 54 foster kids in their lifetime. They didn't have enough of 6 of us. They adopted one. Having 54 kids besides that. We tell them, why are you doing this?
In 9 years, we had 52 foster kids. So.
And everybody through all the younger generations, that's still the ones that are alive, and the younger generation at that time, still come back and see the house as the lugs, and this is the house where you could come in, you could feel at home. Nobody, there was always food, there was always huge gatherings of people there, always laughing, joking. It was more like a family thing, not even just, it was just a thing that they just felt so welcome to this day. They still come from far away and to come to look for mom, and come to visit him. But they made quite a bit difference in a lot of people's lives that don't even realize. If it wasn't for our parents' generation, our grandparents' generation, we wouldn't even be here today.
So when they began to start fight against the CFNI and City Council, what was the CFNI's response to you guys when you guys were telling them about the contamination?
The CFNI didn't respond to us. It had to be the county commissioners that pushed, because they were making money. They weren't going to shut down for us. So we started with the county commissioners. But the well is what we fought, because Father Murray had collected money, and he made that well right there. And from I don't know if you remember Father Murray, from the St. Joseph's Church.
Back in the 60s? Back in the 60s,
Yeah.
wasn't it?
And he from way before, because he was at Mount Carmel, and then they put him at St. Joseph's, and all that money that they collected for that well.
The county commissioners are responsible and approved that.
Yeah, and that's where we started, because the CFNI wasn't pushing, so they started.
They were going to deny it all,
And they started fining them and doing different things for them to cut that thing into the water. But by that time, we had the Mesa water, so it didn't really matter to us anymore, because we were drinking better water. And
go ahead, I'm sorry.
And to this day, I still like the Mesa water.
So, okay, after you got the well, so then what happened after that? What did you guys focus on after that? Because you got that accomplished, so what was next?
The roads and the lights.
Okay, so that's when you got into that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, okay, we talked about the newspapers, but what other kind of protests, marches, or rallies did he either lead, get together? Where did these things happen? When?
I was out of town most of the time when he'd go as a beret to patrol the people and all, but we were all over to Alamosa, La Habana, Denver, Greeley.
Police departments in Pueblo,
where is the
schools.
Otero? San Luis. To San Luis for that mountain. I don't know if you heard about that mountain. Okay, we were there to help them fight. So
it wasn't just here, it was everywhere they needed help. And it was all connected. And I think that's what made them stronger, because they wouldn't just sit still. It wouldn't just be one person. They would just let word of mouth, and it was like everybody was there. They'd find a way, no matter how. They would pile up in cars, but they would find a way to get there, and it was just a thing of the amount of people that would show up. They would just be so amazed, and they didn't think, because people were together. They united.
And if I couldn't march like up the Taylor farm up the mountain, I'd stay and help the ladies in the kitchen, and Luis would go up with the rest.
Up in Denver when they had the English only law. that
Oh
they
yeah, that's
passed,
another one.
That was a big fight.
They
Oh,
wanted
my
to take
gosh.
off us talking Spanish. They didn't want us. They had
Talking to each other.
They had threatened us. So one time at that where the Sears used to be on 6th Street, there was a newspaper was there, and they asked me, "What are you going to do?" We were going to Colorado Springs and Denver to boycott that English only law, and they wanted to take it and make it English only. If they would have caught you talking at work in Spanish, you would have got fined or fired. So we went on a strike on that one. It was a bunch of us that took cars and buses up, and they told me, "What happens if they jail you?" I told the ones that were there, "You're going to have to make a lot of jails because we're not going to give it up. That's our heritage. That's where we were born."
It's all up.
Yeah. So they finally dropped it because even in Denver they were boycotting that. So that was another of the things that we accomplished. So
Even when my dad was alive, Nugs, he called him, he even went to, where was it? San Diego, that they had the meeting with his other brothers.
yeah.
They had a boycott going on down there at that time. There was when they were dumping the crates and stuff. And my dad was down there during that time. He went with
Oh,
Mr.
yeah.
Alarcon, Robert Alarcon, who was the president of the
Farm strike.
And then Carmen Flores, she was a
Secretary.
secretary for them. She was all over. She traveled with them. She was efficient in keeping the records and all.
And,
And then my dad went with him.
and then when Mr. Alarcon went to Texas for a meeting, he was fine. But when he came back over there, he got sick. His tongue just blew up and everything. We say he got poisoned.
Yeah.
He was
His
poisoned.
wife said that she actually thought they gave him acid in the plane.
Yeah.
Because he was eating up like acid inside when he died.
And his tongue just
Just started
blew up and everything. And by the time he came back, he died. And so his wife took over being president of the farm strikers.
be like,
And Louis was vice president of that too. So it was
he
a
was
lot.
involved in a lot of things all over. It wasn't just in Pueblo. It was wherever they needed him,
Everywhere.
he was there.
And there was somebody that died because through everything that they were involved in. Well, you've seen Falcon that got killed in Texas.
Like Luis Martinez too, when we were involved with the Plaza Unida at that time when he
Luis
got
Martinez,
killed.
Denver.
We used to go to the crusade all the time, and that's when he got killed. It was horrible to think. He was such a talented person, boy. He was the one that was teaching them dancing and everything else. And for him to die like that was bad because. So
And that was St. Patrick's Day, right?
Yeah.
That was
yeah,
okay with the shootout with the cops then.
yeah.
Okay. So you said you guys were threatened during this time. Did anything happen? Did anybody act upon those threats, or
Not
to
on
you
us.
personally, or anybody else?
Just one time that I was coming from the farm, it was already kind of late. I had Emma Cruz with me, and I don't know which of the kids, and this one, a car
tried to
kept trying to throw us into the Bessemer ditch. They'd drive up and then they'd and I kept going back, slowing down and all. I was driving home from Lombard to Salt Creek, and we got the license number, and we turned it into the cops, and it was from that Victory Outreach that was in the west side. It was the guy from there, the two ladies. It was a black lady and a white lady, and they were the ones that were trying to push us off, but they didn't do anything about it, because we seen the car afterwards, and we called the sheriff's department and told them that's the car that was trying to push us out, but they didn't do anything about it. So he said, let it go. If it happens again, then we'll see what we do. But it was scary because I had the kids with us. If I wouldn't have had the kids, but they were trying to throw us into the Bessemer ditch. Right there where Salt Creek has that bridge to go into Lombard across, right there's where they were trying to push us in. And that's the only time that we felt threatened, because the other times we had all the berets and everything guarding us and also. Yeah.
So they were pretty much protected. They were loved,
Yeah.
shall we say. So many people protected them.
And the berets from the Huelga, from the farm strikers, wore red berets, and the ones from the Raza Unida were brown berets. But it helped because they respected. They knew that they wouldn't play around with them. So, yeah.
There wasn't there what were they, the Angels or the berets from California too that came down?
Yeah.
There was even Black Panthers that came down, that united with us at that time.
Yeah, there was all kinds of people joining us. They used to come from California, from Texas. We had, what was the name of the one from Texas? And then Luis Tijereña, he was involved. I can't remember which others, but I know we had one, they used to call him Tiger. What was his name?
They were all nicknames. We really didn't get to know a lot of people by name.
But he became a lawyer.
His
He
name was
became a lawyer,
Tijereña.
and
Uh-huh.
and his wife, she became a lawyer. So, and then Marty had got his lawyer degree. He was going to get it that when they found him dead. We still say he
We
didn't
don't
kill
believe he killed
himself, because he used to tell the kids, never take your life, that's a coward way out. And when they found him, Carmen was in Pueblo, and he had some neighbors in the back. There was no alley, but he had some neighbors in the back that had been
It was police
sheriff's.
officers.
Yeah. And so we think that they might have gave him something and put him in the car and turned the gas on.
Because he had just got his bar degree and he was such a smart man.
And he was going to get his, and he got attacked going to Boulder, because that's where he got his degree, but he was going to Boulder when they attacked him too, so that's why we say that he was killed also.
But those that knew him know he didn't kill himself. He used to preach to the kids, don't you ever do that, ever. When God's ready to take you, he'll take you. So
Yeah.
I know he didn't kill himself. He was too smart. There's no other way they can get to him. I truly believe that in my heart.
Yeah.
Okay, can you tell me more about, because I know we kind of touched on the Brown Beret stuff, but, you know, and he's been all over, but locally, you know, what did he do? Was he an organizer? Did he just, you know, follow
No, he joined.
Montour? You know, what?
No, he didn't follow Montour, he followed Marty.
Okay.
Al and Marty, yeah. Yeah. And he's the one that he got involved with, and he loved it because even for the Cinco de Mayo and all that, they'd always take care of the marchers and all. So, but that's the reason that he joined. Marty was like a son to him. He loved Marty. Marty loved him. He's the one that used to always, come on, Lugs, let's go. And Luis would tell him, I'll be right there. But he would have
The farm
gave.
strikes, he was an organizer there. He
Oh yeah, for the farm strike, yeah.
tell everybody, and then for Salt Creek, he was an organizer there. He didn't. He'd tell people what to do. I need you here, and what he could do, and people would come and help him. And we were involved with the movement. He'd tell us, use in the kitchen. And use make the food for the workers, and we were all in there making tortillas and whatever. And he'd get a lot of help. He would, and then when they'd go to the, like they say, he'd go to the county commissioners, he'd be the one there to speak up. And
To talk, because he wasn't afraid to talk. And
And when things would
Andy
get
Carrillo and everybody was.
Andy Carrillo, that's what I was
They
thinking
tell my
of.
dad to sit
He used to
down
be
and
a
have
good
seat.
person.
And he'd refuse. He'd say, no, you're going to listen to me. And they'd tell him to leave, and Andy Carrillo and everybody that was there from Salt Creek, the elderly, would say, no, you're going to listen to him. And if not, you're going to have to throw us all out. And
So, yeah. I can't think of anything else.
That was the meeting you had mentioned about our grandpa Juan with the cane. Who was that for?
When her
Oh.
grandpa threatened somebody
At the
with rain.
recreation hall with the water. They came in there telling us that the water was good and all. And and your grandpa Juan got up and he told him, Luis, tell him that water is no good. Tell him to drink it. And that's when he told Enrique Reyes. And Enrique Reyes kept mouthing off, so your grandpa got up with his cane and he was going to smack him. If they wouldn't have stopped him, he would have hit him, boy. He was so mad. But then your grandpa goes way back too, when he used to work on the railroad, that they had, that they walked out on it too, and he was going to hit one of the foremans or something. I don't remember how they used to say it, but he had a pick that they were digging the ties out or something, and he was going to hit him, and they walked out on that, on the railroad. So I guess later on they gave him higher wages. I don't know what, I don't remember too good, but I know that,
Started the first strike.
yeah. So, and Luis worked on the railroad at 16 years old. He was up in Kansas. He'd go from here to Kansas pulling out the ties. They didn't have those things to pull them out, so he goes way back because he didn't have an education. He only went to the 3rd grade. And then he went back to the college to get take mechanics, and they let him in. So he got his certificate for mechanics. And he'd tell everybody, even my sons-in-law, they tell him, help me fix this. No, I won't help you. You learn. I'll tell you how, but you do it. So so they would go ahead and they learned. Her husband says if it wouldn't have been for my father-in-law, I wouldn't know what I know today. So it goes way back, but those years just passed like a dream, I guess. I can't remember much. I mean, to really think that we were there and everything, it's like I'm dreaming it. And I see pictures. We got pictures of the march. We got pictures of different stuff. Well, she does anyway. And I see him, and it's like, I don't know, I just don't seem to. When my son died is when I lost all feeling. He died 8 years ago, one of the twins. And since then it's like I'm existing but not really feeling. And so I tell him, well, it's your turn now. The rest of you. And I'm glad Maria's involved. She's trying her best. Maria's my granddaughter. She's named after me. So, yeah.
Hopefully somebody will continue the fight.
Yeah, and
She
then
also lived in the family home with you, Maria?
Maria, she lived in she was born in Salt Lake,
Oh, okay.
and then she moved to Pueblo.
But she's heard everything that we've talked about through the
Yeah.
years, so
Yeah.
she pretty
Yes,
much
she's followed it,
has heard a lot.
and she's even trying to play the guitar because my husband played the guitar.
Well, our tío Esteban, Jose Ortega,
Yeah,
used to teach her how to play
Yeah.
the guitar.
her and him and Freddie Montes, the one that used to play with Esteban, and my brothers now when they come down, but they're already in their 78s, and so they don't get to hear that often. But she's good. I tell her, learn it, even if it's just for your own pleasure. She's got one of the guitars that her dad left, that her grandpa, not dad.
So the Salt Creek, how much of this was put out into the newspapers and how was it portrayed?
A lot of when the cleanup started in Salt Creek, the tearing of houses, the well water was also put in there, mentioned what was going on with the water from that little stream of water next to the river, the CFNI being involved, but the CFNI never, ever made a comment about it. They were denying it, and the county commissioners were the ones that were supposed to be the ones in charge of this well water and approved it, and they were also denying it. And a lot of this was put in the paper, but then the paper would also fight not to give some of this news. And when Juan Espinosa
Espinosa.
got involved, that's when more.
He was the one that
appeared in
was
the paper.
publishing everything. So even if they didn't like it, he used to publish everything. So Juan Espinosa was a great help to us too.
In La Cucaracha?
Yes.
In La Cucaracha, yeah.
And there was a couple of other papers.
Ya basta, was very ya basta.
Uh, they would put stuff like this in there, what was going on, the cleanup, and they would show. It came out in the newspaper too when they were cleaning up in South Creek.
Oh.
That they asked when he went to a meeting with the county commissioners, it was put in there where he says even the rats in South Creek have more recreation than what the kids.
They
there.
play ball.
They play
They
baseball down there.
Yeah, and some people got mad that lived in the better section of South Creek and said, "That's not true. That's disgracing us down here, making us ashamed to be living here." My dad says, "Well, it's true. Where we live," he says, "and the other houses that are there abandoned, there are rats, not mice." And it was true. And this is when we finally got the PAD, the Pueblo Army Depot, to donate their trucks and tractors for the cleanup.
So the better section of Salt Creek, were they against you guys fighting this?
Yes.
That was-
So what section is that actually?
San Juan. The
San
street San Juan.
Uh-huh.
Those had better houses and all. Yeah. And then El Paso was nothing but old houses and way old houses. And then Santa Rosa, that's where Carrillos lived. It had some houses that were
School,
good.
where that was at, the recreation hall, that was paved there. Because people, well, anyway.
That's another
They
thing.
paid
Say what
them-
you feel.
The people that ran the center were involved with the political puppets that ran the county. The county commissioners, you had your Dave Chavez. I might get in trouble for this, but I don't care. It was Dave Chavez. He didn't believe in, just his streets would get paved. Every year he'd make sure if it was cracked or little bit of asphalt breaking, they'd pave the roads. They had cisterns, well water, so they didn't care about the other people down the hill on Laguna, on El Paso. What was that other street? Tampico, was it?
Tampico.
Tampico. There was quite a few areas where we were just forgotten. We were living there. We existed, but that's all we did.
And then at Polton Heights, when they put the school there, it was so bad that they had dictionaries that they got from the other schools, and they were thrown in a closet. They weren't even in shelves. And so Mrs. What was her name? One of the Zenos. She was teaching there, and she called us because she knew we were involved. She called us and told us, "Come down here so you can see what's happening." So we went, and boy, we were disgusted to see all those books. The kids had to dig out to get the dictionaries from there. Boy, that's when we went. We really went to the paper with it and all. And before you knew it, they had shelves, they had new dictionaries and different stuff. But thanks to Mrs. I don't remember her last name, but she was one of the Zenos. And she was the one that called us in for that. And the kids, all our kids were going there when they were small. And then later on, we put them at St. Joseph's. But they were going to Fulton Heights because it was closer.
Teachers would just pass you to get you out. You really weren't learning anything there. I'm sorry to say that.
Books were outdated.
But- And people didn't care. They had the ones that lived in the well-off areas there, like told you Dave Chavez, Ted Lopez. Who else was there? There was a little group there.
What's the name of the one that lives next to Viola? Her brother was county commissioner or something.
One that fought with the dad just before he died.
Villanueva? No.
I don't know what. There was the Villanueva. So, oh, that's another one that helped us out. The one that lived by the Ojito in Villanueva, Nazario.
Nazario.
Nazario. Yeah, he was like your Grandpa Juan. They were about the same age, and they were backing up to us all the way. But that school was really bad. And then we fought for the lunches because they were taking lunches to Fulton Heights that were cold. They'd take them in a truck and feed the kids, and they didn't bother to warm them or anything. So we went. That's
Was it
another.
Nava you were talking
Uh,
about? Nava? Was it Nava you were talking about?
Mr. Nava too. But we had them taking ovens and stuff to warm up the food for the kids, and we even went to the school where they were. I think they were cooking at Centennial. I'm not too sure, at Central, and we walked into the kitchen and seen the way it was being put into. They were like leftovers that they were taking to Fulton Heights. So that was another thing that we got accomplished there. But
And the good water.
yeah,
That was the main thing.
yeah, the water.
Streets came later, and now you have your city bus running through there. You have curbs. When I first came back from Utah, that I seen this, I said, "Wow, I can't believe this." I said, if my dad would have been here, he would have been to see the bus and that.
And then all the new houses going up. That's neat. Be nice if they'd make more.
So did they stop the CF&I from dumping in the?
They closed that section of the
I think they
CFNI.
closed it. Yeah,
Um,
that was the open heart.
Yeah, it was the open heart, and they used to pour that slide down. We used to call it our moonlight.
The one that,
Yeah, so
what's the one that lived with there, Rebecca St. Joseph's? That was working there at the rec to get the center going again because they didn't have balls or nothing to play with for baseball. Remember? With the red truck? She had a daughter. They were right there.
When they put the
Vacas.
sewer line in Salt Creek also, we didn't have sewer lines also. The ones that did were the ones that lived up on Roselawn and that, the good section. But the rest had outhouses outside. Or you had cesspool put up in there. And real good after the sewer lines were put in, Ted Lopez was one of your, he still works, I don't know if he's retired now, but he worked for the county commissioners. He got paid to go out and collect, if you were late, because the sewer line was separate, I guess, from the water bill, or I don't know how they put that, when the first well was put in. And if you were late, like even a couple of days, he'd come out to your house and tell you, you have to pay your sewer line, you're due, you're late. And you'd look at him, and it would irritate you, and you wanted to do something about it. You know, why? Why are you worried about this, you know? I know my sewer line's due. I know when we have to put it in, you know, pay bill on that. If it wasn't for, you know, other people that put that sewer line, you wouldn't have your job. But these were all part of that group that my dad used to call them all political puppets. They didn't care, and they'd, you know, fight and everything. They'd argue with them, and my dad would say, "This guy's got a problem, take it outside, let's go." And that's where it would end.
yeah, so
But a lot of accomplishments, and thanks to all the people. I can tell you. That Maria Luisa Flores, she was a little old
she
lady.
was the one that called it to our attention because she used to put little sacks tied to, or a piece of cloth to her bathtub, and by the time she'd take it out the next day, it was yellow. It was like rust, the rust that was coming through her pipes. So she went and she told us, what could I do about this? And he took it up from there. That's all he needed was somebody to awaken him.
But they'd actually turn their sinks on, and it actually looked like dirty water coming out.
Yeah.
That dark, and they wanted them to drink that.
And then we had a well where we used to pull water with a bucket from it, and they'd have to go down every so often and clean that, take the sand out and throw it out until it finally got clear, and then they'd fill up again. They made everybody close their wells. We couldn't keep our wells
Yeah.
anymore. We had to cover them up.
And that water was actually the best tasting water there was. Even when
Yeah.
the water was
Cold,
really
cold.
Ojito, that water, even the kids, when they go walking in the daytime and they were so thirsty, everybody would stop there to drink the water. It tastes so good. Compared to the water even now, it was just good tasting. The well water.
Yeah.
You can't find it like this. Pipeline water's just.
There's barely a little streak coming out. Is it still there?
No,
They sealed it.
They sealed it.
Literally sealed it.
Yeah.
So that was after the main water line came in.
Yeah.
You guys had to close
Yeah.
all the wells, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
The
and that was a city ordinance, or what was?
the county, that was the county.
Oh, okay.
That was their rule. In other words, payback. You want water, you got it, now close your well.
The one that pretty much was doing now recently, that was doing a lot that I knew, was Nadine. She was doing a lot for the Salt Creek again.
Yeah.
She was the one that got started with everything they needed for the baseball.
Yeah,
and everything
I
else.
met her.
Yeah, she was wonderful, people. She was hitting it hard.
Yeah,
And
she's getting the kids
I was
involved,
going,
too.
I was going to the meetings at the time, but when my kids got sick, I just broke away completely because I had to take care of my kids. They were pretty sick, and but she was one heck of a woman. She was
Yeah.
going full speed, and of course, when you're doing good, you're always gonna have somebody that's gonna be there trying to tear you
Yeah.
down.